In the current food environment in the U.S., the food industry is doing much of the education around food. Companies market food products through television, radio, internet, phone apps, social media, magazines, newspapers, on clothing, toys, and product packages, through fundraising events in schools, and product placement in movies and video games. The ultimate goal of food advertising is to get consumers to buy a product. Smart people study human behavior and use well-researched tactics to get your attention and persuade you to buy their product. In 2022, $7.5 billion was spent on media advertising for food, beverages, and candy. This doesn't even include the $9 billion spent on media advertising for restaurants in 2022. The same year, only $1 billion was spent on media advertising fruits, vegetables, and specialty foods. The goal of this Food is Elementary lesson is to empower your students to think critically about food advertisements. These 5 questions can help your students decode and interpret advertisements. Number 1, what tactics are used to get attention? Number 2, what is the main message of the ad? Number 3, who is the target audience? Number 4, who created the ad? And number 5, why did they create the ad? Let's take a look at some of the advertising tactics used on the packaging of cereal boxes, which are also used to advertise a variety of food products across a variety of platforms. What do you notice about the front of these 2 cereal boxes? Which one is more colorful? What is the main message or feeling that you get from the images on the box? Who do you think is the target audience for each cereal, and how are they appealing to that audience? Who created the ad, and why did they create it? What do you notice about these cereal boxes? What characters do you see? Are you familiar with any of the characters from television or movies? On the left we have Fred and Barney from the Flintstones, a longtime cartoon show on television. In the middle we have Trolls, which are these little dolls. You can collect the dolls that got wacky hair, and they're advertising a movie about trolls. Over here on the right, we have this character from Guardians of the Galaxy. So it says here, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, only available in theaters. And it says Marvel Comics, because Guardians of the Galaxy must be part of a comic book made into a movie. You can collect all 6, but what does the movie have to do with breakfast? Many food companies create their own brand-specific characters or mascots. Do you recognize any of the characters here? Do you know their catchphrase? Many of these characters have been around for quite some time, so kids, their parents, even their grandparents may recognize them. On the left, Frosted Flakes, we have Tony the Tiger. And his catchphrase is, "They're not good, they're great." In the center, we have Toucan Sam showing a thumbs up for 9 minerals and vitamins. And over here on the right, we have Captain Crunch. And you are invited to celebrate 60 years with the Captain. Some advertisements use claims that purchasing a specific product will actually help a bigger cause. What messages do you see here? how can buying these cereals help the rest of the world? Many food companies use health claims and get endorsements from professional athletes to entice you to buy their product. What health claims do you see here? Do you think Simone Biles became an Olympic athlete from eating Wheaties, advertised as the breakfast of champions? Another tactic commonly used by advertisers is the offer of free stuff. What offers do you see here, and who do you think they are appealing to? A good rule of thumb is to ignore the advertising on food packages because it is often full of distractions and false claims. The information that's more accurate and more useful can be found on the nutrition facts label and the ingredients list. However, food labels can be very confusing. We recommend focusing on the list of ingredients and spending less time on the nutrition facts label. This mystery ingredient is one ingredient on many familiar food products, such as the cereals we just looked at. Even though it clearly has multiple ingredients, it is listed as one ingredient on a food package. What do you think it is? Do you recognize any of the ingredients? There are some familiar words like cognac essential oil, mint essential oil, neroli essential oil, neroli is orange, rose, but it doesn't really give you a clue about what this mystery ingredient is. It is, drum roll please, natural strawberry flavoring. But wait, are there any strawberries in it? Are there any strawberry essential oils in it? What is it? It was made in a perfume factory in New Jersey, and it is natural strawberry flavoring. The reason it was made in a perfume factory and is used to flavor foods is that most of the flavor in the food we eat comes from the way it smells. The sense of smell is very powerful, and this concoction somehow yields up the smell of strawberries. Let's have a look at the ingredients and count them. Now, when you're counting ingredients, they're separated by commas. You could also count the commas. We're going to count the ingredients, and you may notice that on this slide, I've underlined each ingredient just to make it slightly easier to see. So instead of reading all these tasty ingredients, because they're difficult to pronounce, if you can't read it, don't eat it, I'm just going to count the number. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You can see some ingredients span 2 rows. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and there's no comma here. So it goes to the next row. That's the same ingredient. 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. 49 ingredients. So you can only imagine what artificial flavor has in it, how many additional ingredients are in it. Let's take a look at the ingredients in Froot Loops cereal. You'll see here a section for ingredients, and then an additional section for vitamins and minerals. And when you see vitamins and minerals on the ingredients list, it's important to note that these vitamins and minerals are in their synthetic form, and they have been added to the food. And the reason food companies add vitamins and minerals to their food products is because oftentimes when whole foods are processed, the vitamins and minerals are destroyed or lost during the processing. And so to improve the nutritional value of the food product, synthetic vitamins and minerals will be added to that product. The main thing you need to know about the ingredients list is that ingredients are always listed from most to least by weight. So the first ingredient you see, corn flour blend, is mostly what that food is made of. And then it goes down in descending order by weight. So the last ingredient, BHT, which is a preservative, the Froot Loops contain the smallest quantity of BHT. And for the section of vitamins and minerals, it's the same rule. So Froot Loops have more vitamin C added to them than B12. So you probably have also noticed that ingredients are separated by a comma. You could go ahead and count the commas, but it can get a little tricky. Corn flour blend, you see, is followed by parentheses with two different ingredients within the parentheses. And there's a comma between those two ingredients. So instead of counting corn flour blend as one ingredient, when counting ingredients, you should count whole grain yellow corn flour and degerminated yellow corn flour as two ingredients that make up corn flour blend. The third ingredient is sugar, followed by wheat flour, whole grain oat flour, modified food starch, and then we see contains 2% or less of vegetable oil, and in parentheses we have hydrogenated coconut, soybean, and or cottonseed oil. So that's three different types of oil that could be included in what is called vegetable oil. So we're going to go ahead and count these three oils as three separate ingredients. And it should be noted that hydrogenated oil is not good for health. It's the worst kind of oil out there, very bad for your heart health. What is it? Well, it is a liquid oil, for example, coconut, soybean, or cottonseed oil, that has been modified in a chemistry lab and transformed from a liquid to a solid. And the reason this was done in around the 1950s is because liquid oils will go bad. They'll turn rancid. And if you're making, for example, cereal or donuts with liquid oil, there's a chance you could lose money if the product expires before someone has bought it. So hydrogenated oil was invented because once those liquid oils are turned into solid oils, they have a much longer shelf life. They don't go bad for years, many years. And so the food product can remain on the shelves until somebody buys it. And the food companies don't lose money that way. The food industry has had some talk about eliminating hydrogenated oils now that we know they're not good for health. But I haven't heard anything lately about that actually happening. And they had given the food companies several years to figure out new formulas without hydrogenated oil. But it's not actually changed. You'll still see hydrogenated oil in a lot of products out there. So on we go. Oat fiber, maltodextrin, salt, soluble corn fiber, natural flavor, which we know is not one ingredient but 49 ingredients, so I'm going to add 49 over here. Then we have red number 40, which is probably also multiple ingredients, but I don't have the recipe for that. I don't have the ingredients list. I do know that red number 40 is not meant for people with ADHD. It can make it worse. Yellow number 5, blue number 1, yellow number 6, and a little BHT for freshness. Moving on to the vitamins and minerals. Even though there's only one ingredient in the parentheses, we'll go ahead and count that just to keep it consistent. Ascorbic acid is a form of vitamin C. Reduced iron, niacinamide. We have vitamin B6 or pyridoxine hydrochloride, B2 riboflavin, B1 thiamine hydrochloride, some folic acid, D3, and vitamin B12. So if we go ahead and add these up, we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27, plus 49. That brings in a grand total of 76 ingredients. So a little review now that you know how to decode or read the ingredients list. Ingredients are listed from most to least by weight. Each ingredient is separated by a comma, and count the ingredients inside the parentheses. So once your students have mastered the art of counting ingredients, which is more complicated than it may seem it should be, then when they're ready, you can introduce them to 4 different categories: whole foods, sugars, chemicals, and others, and teach them how to how to categorize each ingredient on the ingredient list to really see what their food is made of. So first we define what is a whole food. Well, it's just one ingredient, so you may see any number of whole foods on an ingredients list. You might see fruit, for example, apples or pears, even though you're not eating the whole fruit intact. Hopefully, most of the fruit or all of the fruit is in that food, but it has been processed to some degree, we know. When you're looking for grains on the ingredients list, the grain must have the word whole before the name of the grain if it is to be considered a whole grain. For example, whole wheat uses the whole wheat grain, all three parts. If you just see wheat or wheat flour on an ingredients list, it is not made from the whole grain. It has been milled and processed and refined. So the word whole has to come before a grain to consider it a whole grain. Next we have sugars. So there are many different types of sugars. You might see on a label sugar, cane sugar, honey, molasses, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, rice syrup, malt. There are a lot of different types of sugars that are semi-natural. There are a lot of sugars that end with the three letters OSE and rhyme with gross. For example, glucose, sucrose, sucralose, dextrose, fructose, maltose, glucose. Lactose is milk sugar. These are all different types of sugars. Then we have chemicals. And chemicals range from food dyes to flavorings to preservatives, texturizers, and then those added vitamins and minerals that are added in to replace what was originally there but lost. So there are a lot of different types of chemicals to improve the appearance of food, the aroma, the taste, and also the texture. This last category, others, is a catch-all. So if you don't know what it is, put it in this category. If it's not a whole food, for example, it just says corn, not whole corn. Or it just says corn flour, not whole corn flour. It is not a whole food. It is not a sugar. It's not a chemical. So go ahead and put it in the others category. This exercise can be a little frustrating if you're striving for accuracy and you're not really sure if maltodextrin is a chemical or something else or a sugar. The main thing to keep in mind is you're just trying to figure out kind of how many whole foods are in a food, how many sugars, and then what else is it really made of. And so don't get caught up or frustrated if you don't know exactly what it is. And if you have time to look it up, certainly look it up and explore with the students. Okay, so let's go ahead and categorize those 76 ingredients that belong in Froot Loops, and we're going to put them either in whole foods, sugars, chemicals, and others. And this is what you'll do with your students. No one has to write the name of each ingredient. You can simply write a tally mark for each ingredient. So corn flour blend, we know that is whole grain yellow corn flour. And because it says whole grain, we will call it a whole food. Degerminated yellow corn flour is not a whole food. It is not a sugar. It's not a chemical, so we will put it in the others category. We've got sugar, straight up sugar. Wheat flour, it's not whole wheat flour, so it's an other. Whole grain oat flour, modified food starch. I'm going to guess it started off as a whole food, but they've extracted just the starch, so it's now basically a chemical, probably in a powdered form. 2% or less of vegetable oil, and we know that that hydrogenated oil, those three oils, are not in their natural state. They've been manipulated and modified, and I'm going to call them chemicals because no doubt chemicals were added to them during the hydrogenation. Oat fiber, it's part of a whole oat grain, but it's not whole. So it's another. Maltodextrin may have started off in some way as a whole food, but it has been extracted and didacted and redacted, and it is now considered a chemical in powder form. Salt. Salt's tricky. It's not really a whole food. It's not a sugar. I'm going to call it a natural chemical. It could go in others. That's what I mean by don't stress out and overthink it. It's just a general categorizing. Soluble corn fiber is part of the corn, but it is not a whole food, so we'll put it in other. We've got natural flavor. We know that is 49 chemicals. So I'm just going to go ahead and write 49. Red number 40 is a chemical. Yellow. Blue. Another yellow. Sometimes you'll see, for example, yellow lake 6. That word lake is in there. I'm not sure what that means. BHT, we know, is a chemical preservative. And then we have our vitamin and minerals that are added in their chemical form. We've got ascorbic acid or vitamin C, reduced iron, niacinamide, vitamin B6, which is pyridoxine hydrochloride, B2, also known as riboflavin, B1, also known as thiamine hydrochloride. Got some folic acid, vitamin D3, and vitamin B12. So, if you count up the total for each category, you're eating a grand total of 2 whole foods in your Froot Loops. Shockingly, 1 sugar, but it is the third ingredient, basically. So, it's pretty concentrated. We've got 5, 10, 15, 20 plus 49. 49 plus 20 is 69. Plus 1, 2, 3, 4 other ingredients. So if you add the totals, 2 plus 1 plus 69 plus 4, that reaches our 76 ingredients in Froot Loops, and you can see 2 of them are whole foods, 1 of them is sugars, 69 of them are chemicals, and 4 are others. So when you compare the 76 ingredients in a bowl of Froot Loops to 1 ingredient per whole fruit, it's pretty shocking. And you'll notice that they don't even spell Froot Loops the right way. Maybe that's because there are no fruits in them. Also because they want to use the shape of their cereal to advertise the name. They can put the little O's there and it's fun and cute. But it's important for students to think about what it is they're eating and where it comes from and what it's made of and what their body is going to get and their brain is going to get from this versus this. So we've got whole fruits that are natural. You can go to a farm or an orchard and you can see these plants growing. You can pick them and they're fresh and juicy, packed with fiber, packed with vitamins, really nutrient dense, really very good for you. Packed with water. And you compare that to the Fruit Loops, a very different experience. You won't find a tree growing Fruit Loops. They come from a factory and they're made from a whole bunch of different ingredients and chemicals that are mixed up and made into sort of an unnatural looking form. So, no fiber, high sugar, high chemicals, pretty big nutritional difference between the two and the way that they may make you feel.